seen happens too often every day. Death by overdose on heroin.
In the past few years, the number of deaths due to overdose on heroin has risen dramatically in Ohio.
The problem is widespread and it has an impact on all of us.
It cuts across all economic levels and makes its way into all types of neighborhoods, whether it be inner city or upper-class suburb.
We all need to be more aware of this problem and know what we can do to stop it.
Let's first take a look at the cause of this problem.
I think one of the reasons that we're seeing an increase in heroin has to do with the situation of what began in the past as an effort by law enforcement to combat the prescription drug abuse. And as we clamp down more on that and work to eliminate that, I think heroin has kind of taken the place of that situation that we had in the past.
We're losing about 6 to 7 people a day from unintentional drug overdoses. When you look at the statistics for heroin, it's about 3 to 4 people a day. And those statistics that I'm referencing are a couple years old. So we know that we still have a problem. We know that fentanyl and now carfentanil, which is, is something that they use on large animals at the zoo as a tranquilizer, is a problem in our neighborhoods and with our kids and with our parents. There are no boundaries on this drug.
Well, I think one of the reasons that heroin, the availability of it has increased is because there's a lot of incentive from every drug dealer to keep their clientele hooked on a very addictive, a substance that will keep their people they're dealing to coming back over and over again. Whereas somebody may use a marijuana dealer once in a while, they'll be back to that heroin dealer every chance they get because the heroin's so addictive.
Yeah, there is an increase in rural areas due to pricing. Maybe a berry of heroin in Columbus would cost you about $8. Here, farther away from the city and the travel, dealers are getting about $20 for those same berries. So it didn't take long for the big city dealers to understand that they've got a group of clientele, in a rural area like Mount Vernon, they can come here and make a lot more profit.
In some of the suburbs, it's a little bit easier perhaps to fly under the radar. They hope to perhaps catch law enforcement a little off guard in some of the rural areas. They're kind of playing it with carrying smaller amounts of the drug. They don't carry any weapons. They try to fly under the radar and just stay hidden as long as possible. So I think that's why they're kind of spreading out into that territory.
Heroin is definitely increasing among teens because it is so cheap and it is so easy to get, and it is a very fast high, and they're addicted almost immediately.
Opium contains the active ingredient morphine, which was identified in the 1840s and purified. So morphine is more potent than opium because it contains the pure active ingredient. The hypodermic needle was invented by an Englishman in the 1850s and was used almost exclusively for morphine injections. Morphine is much more effective if injected than if it's taken orally. This is a molecular model of the morphine molecule. Each of the beads that you see is one atom. The black beads represent carbon atoms, and the white ones represent hydrogen atoms. Most of the atoms are carbon and hydrogen. The 3 red atoms are oxygen, and this lone blue one at the top is nitrogen. Heroin is a more potent drug than morphine because it can get into the brain more readily. However, once it's inside the brain, something has to happen to it before it can exert its effect. Inside our brain, we have an enzyme that's able to remove these extra pieces, replace them with hydrogen, and that has converted the heroin molecule back into morphine again. That's important because the molecule needs to fit into a receptor and if my hand is the receptor, it goes in this way. If the acetyl group had been covering over this oxygen atom, that would make it too large and it would not be able to enter the receptor. So it's actually morphine that causes the drug effects in our brain, but heroin is a more powerful version of morphine because these extra pieces helped to transport the drug into the brain faster. The same group of chemists who invented aspirin worked on morphine. Morphine had its undesirable side effects, and they thought they could improve it, and so these chemists used the same chemical reaction that created aspirin to add some groups to morphine. And then one of the scientists in the laboratory tried it. He loved the feeling of power that it gave him. He said that it made him feel heroic, and so Bayer named their product heroin.
I think that most people in the state of Ohio would be shocked to learn that Ohio is second in the nation in unintentional overdose deaths. On average, there are 7 people in the state of Ohio dying per day.